There's an article that I saw that dealt with negative cash flow. Just FYI. But as I read it, I thought about some strategies that I remember attempting to employ and still do, as I understand the reality that when you are engaging in a project, that you are essentially financing that project for that owner or that first tier, depending on what level you are at. So understanding that risk, and at the expense of time, I just won't touch the article, but things to consider when we think about negative cash flow in small business. I'll make that caveat. Analyze your financial condition and relationship with your client before bidding or proposing on the project. Don't get out there without knowing where you stand. What's your ability to absorb costs for staff, trade labor, materials, project support, or GCs, depending on how you define them. The closeout period for retention release. You're on the hook for all of that. And don't go into a project assuming that somebody's going to give you money early just to get through the project. Unfortunately, historically, the industry hasn't worked that way. We've made some great strides in how we deal with small businesses, minority and women, through early pay, quick pay, or however we define that. But going into the project, we have to go into it understanding where we stand financially, understanding how your scope, your schedule, and your budget will impact that corporate revenue. Do some forecasting, right? If you don't know how, sit down with your accountant, and look at forecasting the cost of the job, the revenue from the job. I see a good friend of mine in the back, hey, Allie. The revenue from the job. What are your options for financing that project through the retention payout? Not just to your last pay app, but through the retention payout, right? Do you know how that's going to happen? If you're in the middle of the sequences of the work, you need to have the discussion with your first tier or even someone above. How is the retention being paid out for these particular scopes which start and stop in the middle of the project? Ask these questions. You heard me say before, ask questions often. Just some things to consider. Be upfront. And there's more guilty with this one than anything else. Be upfront and transparent with regard to your financial situation before accepting the opportunity. Be upfront. Many times we can't be upfront because we don't want to tell anybody that we can't even make payroll this week. So it's okay that you're having trouble not making payroll, but be upfront and say, is there any way we can work through some financial assistance, initial cash and things like that to help with some of these expenditures that I'm going to have waiting on our team to get paid. Don't wait until you get into the job, get past pay app number 1, and then raise the flag, I need help. Some people I'm not talking to, some people I am. Set a structure for early payments. That's that conversation. Set the structure. I remember when I had my construction company, I don't know that I went into it. Whether I needed it or not, I didn't go into the job without setting a structure. So I either knew or I didn't know. Either you were going to pay me early, or in the case of WashU, which I love, they have the direct early pay, which is always great. But it was always that understanding, right? What did I say? To avoid a misunderstanding, always get an understanding. Be upfront and transparent. Transparency can be a problem these days. That's coming from an auditor. Set a structure for early payments, joint checks. It's okay. It's okay. Direct payments for your vendors. Establish the process for segregation of costs, right? Know the difference between the cost of your work versus your overhead, G&A expenses, your fee or your profits, however you define that. Don't mix. Don't mix your corporate with your personal. And I know sometimes it's hard to draw that line depending on where you are in your cycle. And always position your cost system to withstand the project audits. Many of you have not gone through one yet, but I can guarantee you, Steve talked about some things, and we would talk about what's sort of trending, what's happening in the industry, what are some of the changes. I mean, these owners are becoming more educated, right? The clothing store, Sims, what was their motto? An educated consumer is our best customer. Owners are becoming more educated. And as part of that, they're engaging in third-party construction auditors to review, examine, challenge, recover cost. So whether you are on the GC or CM side, whether you're at risk, even on the design side in some cases, these auditors are here to protect these owners in the mind of the National Association of Construction Auditors, in which I'm a member of. You are going to have to withstand an audit at some point. So how you keep your books now may have to change because they're going to the lower tiers. Well, they used to just look at the general. They're going to the lower tiers now. And you may be in a situation where you have money left on the job that now the auditor says the recovery program means that you owe money back. Project audits, done. Please read the negative cash flow piece and remember my things to consider. It might help you.